In a game that's all about Zodiac stones and Zodiac braves, you would imagine that the Zodiac system in Final Fantasy Tactics is probably pretty important, and it is, to a degree. It's also nowhere near as difficult to understand as people would have you believe, so today we're going to talk about exactly how it works and how you can use it to make your teams that little bit more efficient. And on Tactician, you might want to be thinking about doing that. My name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman, and welcome back to the channel. Hello everyone, if you enjoy what I do, including my ongoing coverage of all the different systems and mechanics and builds and other fun things for Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivalice Chronicles, then a like on this video and a subscription to the channel would be very much appreciated. Thank you so much. So the Zodiac system, this is one of those things, much like Brave and Faith, that people seem to get extremely confused by when they first start to get into Final Fantasy Tactics, in no small part because very oftentimes they will have people tell them that it is very difficult to understand, that it's not well explained, etc., etc. And some of those things are true, or at least they were, until the release of the Ivalice Chronicles. Now though, the system has been trimmed down a little bit to be a little bit more of a smooth flowing operation, and the tutorialization in the game is much stronger, so it's a lot easier to actually dive in and see what it is that you're looking at. In case that's too much for you, or you would just rather listen to a tutorial rather than actually go in and read it in the menu itself, which is totally understandable. I know I very often like to digest my information that way. I've put everything together here in terms of how the system works and then how you can properly use it to make the most of your team members. We're also going to be talking about the fact that it's not really a system that you should be worried about in terms of what the enemy has due to the huge variety of units that you can wind up running into on the board, with a couple of exceptions that we'll discuss at the end. First off though, how does the system actually work and what is it? If you're not aware, every single unit in the game, yours or the opponent's, human or monster, will have a Zodiac sign associated with it. And in battle, you can see it right here above a character's portrait. These are the typical signs of the Zodiac as you would see them in real life, and they don't actually have a direct effect on any of your stats or really anything to do with your unit whatsoever. What they actually do is change the way that your units interact with each other and with the enemy. When interacting with another unit, you will have one of four potential different states that you will find yourself in: a positive state, a negative state, a best state, and a neutral state. And these states will change depending on what the relationship is between the Zodiac signs that you and the opposing unit have. If you have a positive state or a positive relationship, you will get a boost of around 25% to damage, accuracy, chance of spell effects landing, etc. for spells that do actually wind up relating to this system, which we will talk about. If you're negative, you'll have about a net 25% nerf to those things. If you have the best possible affinity, it will be a 50% boost, and if it's neutral, then nothing changes. You're just going based off of your normal stats. Each sign has two other signs that it has a positive relationship with, so a 25% boost, two that it is negative with, so a 25% nerf, and one that it has the best compatibility with, that is that 50% boost. However, it is very important to keep in mind that if you're looking at monster units, the best is actually reversed and will then become a negative, leading to a 25% nerf. This is something to keep in mind if you do want to make common use of monsters. You might want to consider what Zodiac signs they have and what Zodiac signs your team has before you wind up recruiting them. There's also no worst relationship in the game, so the greatest negative that you're going to wind up having will be that 25%. I'm not going to go through every single sign and what compatibility it has here, just because that would take a long time. It would basically just be a bunch of reading. You can find a list of all the compatibilities in the Chronicle under Lessons in the Advanced tab, and I also have a handy dandy little graph that all of us old heads from ye olden days of Final Fantasy Tactics discussion have used, where you can see all the different compatibilities here. I will have that linked in the description as well. The only thing to keep in mind with that graph is it has additional worst pairings or additional negative pairings that used to take gender into account. However, based on testing that has been done around the internet and in my own Discord, users have found that there is no longer a gender consideration when looking at things like Zodiac. So you don't need to worry about who's what gender and what sign they have and how that changes, how the system works. It's one of the ways that the Zodiac system has been streamlined a little bit, and it makes it a little bit less of a headache to try and figure out, which I really do appreciate. As mentioned, your Zodiac compatibility is going to impact a lot of different things, from the just base damage that your physical attack does, to your chance of reviving someone with Raise or the revive skill from Monk, or the chance you're going to be able to put a beneficial or harmful status effect on something. Anything from haste to sleep to anything else like that will be impacted by your Zodiac compatibility. Even stealing, theft itself, is influenced by the will of the stars. So hey, I mean, I guess there is something to that whole fate idea, at least in the world of Final Fantasy Fantasy Tactics. This means that taking Zodiac into consideration will be a major player for how you decide to set up your team and how they will be able to interact with each other. There are some skills that you don't need to worry about this quite as much with. For example, my beloved Samurai can just guaranteed put Protect and Shell on everything in AoE around them. Just guaranteed. Zodiac doesn't care. It's just a 100% chance to hit. Cool. Bang, boom, Bob's your uncle. And anything else that has a 100% chance to hit like that, or just a flat amount that it does, is the same. Chemists are not going to be healing more with potions if they have a positive Zodiac relationship with you. A potion heals for what it tells you it's going to heal you for. 30, 70, 150, that's it. Flat, boom, done. However, there are far more skills and calculations that do take Zodiac into consideration than there are that do not. So we're going to talk about some ways you can get some optimized team setups going on using the Zodiac, or at least keeping it in mind. As one example of a team setup, let's look at a team that has 2 Aquarius sign support units and 3 primary combatants with the Leo sign. These signs do have best compatibility with one another, and this as such will provide the best results for healing magic, buff and resurrection targeting, etc., as we mentioned. This is just a bit of theory crafting here, as I don't have all of the units on hand that have these exact signs due to the way that we're doing our campaign challenge, but say we have a monk using Chakra and Revive as one of our support units, and that monk, he has the Aquarius sign. Then, alongside him, we have a Black Mage with Time Magic as another Aquarius. Then our 3 primary combatants would be, say, a Ninja, a Knight, and a Dragoon, all again with the Leo signs. What this means is that when you need to heal someone with Chakra, or give them MP back, or revive them with your Monk, you will have a 50% boost to the effectiveness of that skill on all of those allies. You'll be more reliably able to revive them. You'll restore more health with Chakra, and then if you have any other secondary abilities or anything like that equipped, most likely they will be affected by this as well. Hell, maybe you have white magic on your monk because you want to be able to apply Protect and Shell to the party, or you want to be able to cast Wall on one particular unit like your knight who's going to be super tanky and send him out there into the front line. All of those skills will be impacted by having a best compatibility with those 3 primary frontliners. Same thing goes for the Black Mage. If you want to have a party formation at the beginning of the battle where you have a plus shape on a flat plane and you want to be able to haste everyone right off the bat, having that good compatibility with the team means that more likely than not, especially if you have good faith as well, that Black Mage is guaranteed going to haste everyone in the party. Now, it is important to note that in this scenario, your Black Mage and your Monk would not have compatibility with each other, but that's fine. They're the same sign, so it would still just be neutral. You'd still be just going off of your raw stats. So if you do have good stats, you should still be able to get the effects that you need while being even stronger for the guys that are probably going to be taking the big hits on the front. As another example, let's look at a more generally supportive team where you won't have quite as much effectiveness, but more units will be able to have positive effects on each other in general throughout the party. Continuing on with our Aquarius signs from earlier, you would want Gemini and Libra to complement them. These 3 signs are all supportive of each other, so if you took just as a complete out-of-my-hat thing, 2 Aquarius, 2 Gemini, and a Libra, you would have neutral to positive benefits for the entire party. Again, you wouldn't get benefits for the 2 Aquarius with each other or the 2 Gemini for each other, but everyone else, they would be able to give boosts to and receive boosts from. And obviously having mostly positive with some just neutral is way better than the potential of having any negative whatsoever. And you could incorporate monsters into this team as well without fear of any negatives as a handy bonus. Considering that there are actually a bunch of useful monsters already, and some of them got decent buffs in the Ivalice Chronicles, there will absolutely be times that you do want to incorporate them into your party. With this type of a setup, again, pretty much any healing, buffs, or support that you throw around to the team will be getting nice bonuses, and you won't be sweating as much when it comes down to a clutch support ability going off for Revive, as you might be if you have mainly neutral or even negative relationships with each other. And again, it's not like these are the only 3 signs you can do this with. You can browse through the advanced section, or again, cross-reference the graph that I've posted earlier and that you'll have on the screen here as well, and see what signs it is that you might need. Largely, you're going to be basing this around what your Ramza's sign is. If you have a specific birth date that you like to use for him, I always use my own, so I'm an Aquarius with Ramza. If you really want to be min-maxing, you'll want to make sure that he fits into that formation and then choose all of your other signs around that, whether it be because you're recruiting enemies off the battlefield who happen to have the right sign, or at the very beginning of the game, you go through, boot out your whole party, and then just recruit characters that have the signs that you want. The earlier you do this, the better, because obviously you'll have more time to just level those characters and grind them up. But you can technically always reset this just as long as you're willing to put in the grind to get those characters caught up. If you wanted to get even deeper into this, whether it be for a future run through or you just really like to have all your ducks in a row before you start a new game, you can look up all of the other unique characters that you'll be able to recruit, choose which ones you eventually want to have on your team, and then build your generics around who's going to have complementary signs with them as well. Though really, you probably don't need to get that intense with it. You can if you want, and that's one of the beauties of a game like this. It lets you really dive as deep as you feel like, but I'm not going to say that it's necessary or even really recommended, especially for your first run. Now, as mentioned, I have a pretty eclectic mix of characters on my team currently because of the supporter challenge run that I'm doing, where I just have to use the characters that channel supporters and viewers submit to me that are completely customized them down to their Zodiac sign if they so chose. So I don't necessarily have all the best compatibilities here, but we do have some good options we can take a look at. For example, Izzy here, my white mage in training to fill the ranks of the recently deceased. If you haven't seen the most recent streams, it's gotten pretty bloody out there, so we need some replacements. Izzy here has the Gemini sign. His magic will pair really well with my Ramza, who's an Aquarius, again like myself. He will pair best with Sagittarius though, which is actually great because I have my currently monk, soon to be knight Dagny here. He's going to be able to do a lot to heal her, give her support buffs, res her if she gets downed. It will be a very nice pairing, while also still being able to get some bonuses when working with Ramza and any other characters that I choose to add to the team that have complementary signs. Notably though, he will not enjoy working with Twilight, who is a Pisces and one of my other very strong characters. So if I'm going to have them on the same team together, I might want to take into consideration that negative relationship and maybe have other guaranteed ways to support her in case Izzy isn't able to give her what she needs when we're down to the wire and maybe she needs to be rezzed or something. Now, we talked quite a bit about party building and how you can use the Zodiac system to your advantage to make your team a lot more compatible and work better together. And that is definitely the biggest use case for this system. Again, there's going to be so many different enemies that you encounter over the course of the game, random enemies and just enemies in story battles, with a number of units that can be on the field at any given time. Trying to plan for and accommodate and work towards having a team that can handle like any different Zodiac combination that the enemy could provide, really not going to be the most beneficial thing for you. And again, it is a two-way street anyway, so even if you want to be able to maximize damage against the enemy by always knowing what Zodiac sign they have and deploying units that are going to take advantage of that, they're going to be able to take that same advantage against you as well. So really not something that you want to spend a ton of your time working on. So long as you have a team that can buff each other up, heal when necessary, and generally be supportive of each other, that's already most likely going to be enough of a boost, even on Tactician, to get you through whatever it is that you need to get through. That said, there are two major exceptions to this case, and that's what we're talking about here now. Keep in mind as well, these are both spoiler fights. If you don't want to know about a late game Chapter 3 battle and a late game Chapter 4 battle against major characters, you're going to want to click away now. You can jump to the end of the video with this timestamp here, where I'll just briefly go over what it is that I'm talking about more in detail with these two characters. I'll give you 5 seconds to jump away now if you don't want to know. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so the characters that we're talking about here are Wiegraf at Realvanes Castle at the end of Chapter 3, and Elmdor near-ish to the end of Chapter 4, maybe more the midway point of Chapter 4 at Limbury Castle. The reasons for this are similar, but unique to each character. The Wiegraf fight, as anyone who knows this game knows, is notoriously difficult due to the fact that it is a one-on-one at first between Ramza and Wiegraf before you get to Phase 2. And considering that Wiegraf is a very powerful Holy Knight, and Ramza doesn't even have his high-level Devout Knight job yet, so he doesn't even have some of his best abilities and equipment, this can be an extremely brutal fight for Ramza. If Wiegraf is dealing bonus damage to you on top of that because of complementary signs, even worse. This is already a fight that you have to get very intelligent with in terms of how you're going to deal with it if you haven't just, overground, which is always a possibility. And then if you're on Tactician, it can be even more nasty, with most people having to resort to what feels like some sort of a cheese build to be able to overcome it, again, without just being massively overleveled and dual punching him into the ground. Wiegraf has the Zodiac sign Virgo, meaning that if your Ramza has the Gemini or Sagittarius signs, you're going to be in for a really rough duel. Again, not unwinnable by any means, but your damage is going to be even lower than normal against Weegraf here, and your chance of landing debuffs or messing with his gear will have very poor accuracy. As such, especially if you're planning on playing on Tactician, that is going to be something you're going to want to keep in mind when you're choosing a birth date for Ramza. You might want to steer away from Gemini or Sagittarius, or if you're dead set on having those signs, because maybe that's your birthday and you want to use your birthday, which is fine, know that that's going to be a really difficult fight, and you are really going to have to prepare for it. Meanwhile, jumping to Chapter 4 and the battle with Elmdor, Marquis Elmdor himself, or Marquis as the game would say, in Limbury Castle. The actual fight here is tough, yes, but the main challenge with Elmdor is stealing the Genji gear and his sword. And considering that Elmdor himself is an extremely powerful combatant, and he has 2 nasty assassins that turn into demons who can either deal massive amounts of just raw damage, or instant kill you, or put you to sleep, or do other nasty stuff, it's definitely going to be something that people will struggle with if they want to get all 5 pieces of gear off of Elmdor. As such, to make your chances just that little bit better, you're going to want a thief with either the Libra or Aquarius sign to take advantage of Elmdor's Gemini sign, as this will boost the accuracy of the steal command. This can actually give you a pretty decent boost, going from anywhere from like 15 to 25% chances to steal to 30 or even as high as like 45, 48%. And I'll take a 50%-ish chance, a coin flips chance, over like a 1 in 5 or 1 in 4 chance any day of the week when I've got vampires and demons bearing down on me. This can, of course, also be accompanied by like rending Elmdor's stats and stuff, but that's a topic for a different day. We're not getting into that right now. Beyond those 2 fights, though, there's very little real reason that you need to worry about what Zodiac signs other characters have. Most other fights in the game you can manage better with just tactics and good loadouts than necessarily having min-maxed bonuses, but if you do want to get into it, you're always free to look forward and see what sorts of Zodiac signs various different bosses and dangerous enemies in the game might have. So long as you have beneficial signs, or at least are aware of your characters that have negative signs with each other, you can usually work around it and find success even on Tactician. And that's pretty much the Zodiac system. As always, if there's anything that I missed, anything you feel I should have touched on, or, God forbid, anything that I was incorrect about, do please let me know in the comments. I took extra time researching this video, trying to make sure that I had everything hammered out, especially since we knew that some changes, like the no longer considering gender thing for the signs, had happened in the Ivalice Chronicles, so I wanted to make sure I had all my ducks in a row, wanted to make sure that I had all the information correct before I presented it, because even though I've been playing this game for almost 3 decades now, things like the Zodiac system have always been kind of background knowledge for me. I've never really talked about it very much with others. So my apologies if there is anything that is incorrect, but as far as I'm aware, this should all be good to go. I do always love to see all the conversation that you guys have in the comments about all of these videos and all of these systems, so feel free to chatter away. I'll join in when and where I can. And now that this very highly requested topic has been handled, keep letting me know what other types of videos you would see as well. I've got a bunch of stuff on the back burner. I've seen all of your requests, and I'm going to work through as much of it as I can, as fast as I can. Like I said, I just need to take a little extra time for this one, and to hopefully have some good editing in here as well. We'll see. Whatever the next video may be, though, thank you all so much for watching. My name has been Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. I'll see you all on stream and in the Discord very, very soon. And until the next time, I hope you all have a good night. Stay safe and healthy out there, everybody. And remember, be good to each other, y'all. Bye now.